Meditate, manifest, invest in you. Join me on my spiritual journey as I elevate myself and like-minded listeners to a higher level mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for listening. This is Black Hippie Lounge, and I am your host, Chanel. So, good evening. This episode is called Checking Out, and it's going to be quick, hopefully. Just wanted to kind of touch on the idea of, checking out. I feel that sometimes, I know at least for me personally, I check out from doing things, just kind of needing to regroup when I have a lot going on emotionally and I just can't juggle a lot of things. And sometimes that includes the podcast. This past month or so, I've just had a lot of stuff happen that I had to take care of, and emotionally I was just kind of not in the space to be able to to do the podcast. There were times probably when I could have, but I just chose not to. And then I just basically kept getting these signs and messages that I needed to get back to it. And so, yeah, I'm doing this episode to get back into it. So, like I said, it's called Checking Out, and sometimes checking out is needed. Sometimes you just need to regroup and get yourself back together, because we have so many things going on, everyday responsibilities, plus, various things that can affect you emotionally, relationships, just life in general, and, so many things that are going on in the world, all these, the whole thing with George Floyd case, and then the girl getting killed the same day, just all those things and things that you see in the news, and the vaccine stuff, and COVID, and the pandemic, and jobs, and the economy, and just everyday things, probably things within your family, your own personal life, just trying to juggle all that stuff and still be emotionally present can be draining. And sometimes you just need to check out. I would say do it in a healthy way, and do what you need to do for you to get you back to yourself. So yeah, I just felt like I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do the episodes because I just felt I wasn't in it emotionally. I just wasn't putting in the effort to find, to figure out what to do for content and everything like that. So I had to take a step back. And today I wanted to talk about checking out. There's a mantra that I saw. It says I am patient with the process of change and transformation while staying focused on my desired reality. And that mantra definitely touched with me because I've been in the process of trying to make some changes in my life as far as career. I had a lot of stuff in the month of May that happened that I really had to just tend to. I really had to focus and get it handled for my personal life. And a lot of it is handled now, but it's still it can be draining trying to do all that, plus work out, all that other stuff. And just also being in the midst of feeling things are changing, and I am in a transformation right now, another one. And sometimes it's hard to stay focused on your reality, your desired reality, the mantra says. It says, I am patient with the process of change and transformation while staying focused on my desired reality. The process of change and transformation can be good, but it also has its part where you're just dag, like, why do I have to go through this, or why does this have to happen in order for me to get to where I need to be, and stuff like that. And you might have to lose people, things, and that you might not necessarily want to, or you might have to reevaluate how you handle things, or make changes in your habits and the way you handle certain situations with people, or just in general. But it's usually, that is a part of your growth for a good reason, So just, being patient with yourself, with the things that you're going through. And transformation takes time. Nothing happens overnight. Learning to be more patient. I'm definitely in a season of that, of like learning to be more patient with myself, with others, with God, with just in general, like learning to be patient and relax and let things be, go with the flow, but still staying focused on my desired reality, and appreciating the change and the transformation, and making sure that I'm paying attention to the lessons that are being taught within the change and transformation. Because I felt like I think in the beginning of this podcast, or like I know at least a couple of episodes, I talked about like going through change and being impatient and feeling like, when am I going to get to my desired reality? But sometimes when you have that mindset, it takes longer, because God's waiting for you to like learn the lessons of why you need to go through what you need to go through to get to the desired reality, and maybe why you need to, end certain relationships, or end certain habits, or change your mindset, or the changes that you have to do. There's a podcast that I listen to. I feel like I've talked about it before. It's a preacher in Houston. It's called Jerry Flowers, and he talks about like how God will have you in the, not a waiting room, but like the dressing room or something like that, dressing room. And usually like when you're in a season of waiting or transformation, or you're like in the wilderness sort of, or just like in a space that you're not familiar with, usually then that's usually when God is like undressing you, taking away like old habits, old things, and basically changing your wardrobe, changing you as a person to become who God wants you to be. And sometimes you're in that room for a while, because you have to really completely get undressed and like get rid of old habits, understand why you have to get rid of them. Like that's a part of the lessons. And I feel like right now that's what I've been doing, is like learning to be patient with myself first of all, and patient with things in my life and the process of change, because sometimes things change can go quickly, or it can take a while. And I feel like for me it's usually a situation where it takes a while. And like emotionally it can be a lot, because sometimes you might have to get rid of things and people. Like I've had to pretty much, it was crazy, because like it was like back to back. I had people that I had to just let it go, or at least like just set that boundary. That was another thing, is like practicing setting boundaries, realizing like, this might be something that's like a temporary good feeling, but it's not gonna do me well in the long run, or you're just draining me of energy that I could be preserving for myself, and I just don't feel like it. Like I was just in a space where I was just like, I don't feel like being bothered with people, and I'm not about to, maybe I'm not going to be rude, but I'm going to give you one time where I'm going to say, you know what, this is not it. This is no longer benefiting me, or I don't have the desire to want to interact with this person anymore, and I'm being as nice as I can about it to explain that. And then after that, if you want to continue to reach out and like ignore what I'm saying, then I'm gonna ignore you. Like, so that's what happened to me. I did. I'm no longer interacting with certain people. I've already given you the heads up. If you want to still, try and reach out, then I'm not going to do it. Because I'm just not in the same space. I'm not the same person that I was, and your connection no longer serves me. And that's another thing, like with change and transformation, is like realizing what no longer serves you and what you can't bring with you to the next level, and being okay with that. And again, like I said, like learning the lessons from certain situations, jobs, people, whatever it is that you have to let go of, learning from it, looking at the lesson from it, rather than like focusing on the idea that can no longer be in your life, but more so just being like appreciative that it was in your life and the lessons that you get from it. I think that, I know I've talked about before, at least for me, like being in not necessarily a rush, but when you have your desired reality, and it's so fulfilling to know like what you want to do for yourself, that sometimes it can be hard to enjoy the right now because you're so focused on your future and like what you see for yourself and the things that you want. And I feel like it's another lesson that I'm learning, is learning how to appreciate where I'm at now and the people that are in my life now, and certain connections that I have, and learning to be patient with them. And even if it's not something that I will have like a year from now, or however many years from now, or months from now, learning to enjoy it for what it is right now and what I'm getting out of it now, as well as learning how to be patient with them, and learning as much as you can, from the connections that you have, because everyone isn't gonna always be there in your life. Everyone isn't meant to stay forever. See, some people are seasons, some people are more than that. So yeah, just learning to accept that. But not only accept it, but learning how, I've also been learning about like how to not have attachments, but more so just having connections. You have to learn to really let people be. You can't try to control the outcome. You can't kind of try to control the interaction itself. You can't try to control their feelings and how they, understand things or anything. You just can only be you and learn for you and do for you, and just have faith that the right things will come to you. The people that are supposed to be in your life will gravitate towards you, and everything will be how it's supposed to be for you. When you learn to do that, it just makes things easier, because you're just, again, like I said, learning to enjoy the now, enjoying the people that do gravitate to you or that are in your life. And you don't have necessarily like a timetable of how long it's supposed to last or anything like that. You're just enjoying it for what it is. So yeah, I feel like again, checking out can be sometimes healthy, because it can be overwhelming when you have a lot of things going on in your life and you're going through change and you're trying to like, I know for me, it's like I'm going through change and transformation, and I'm still trying to do everyday things while still trying to understand why the change is happening, what is the actual change, what I'm supposed to be learning from the change, what I'm supposed to be doing within the change. So it's a lot, it's a lot emotionally and spiritually to comprehend and go through. So it takes a lot out of you, and sometimes you do just have to check out, rightfully so. So if you do feel like you're in that kind of space, don't feel bad for having to check out, because sometimes you just need to regroup. We're all human, and everybody handles things differently. Like I said, for me, I usually try not to check out, but in this type of situation of this past month, it was just so many things that were going on personally where certain things had to get done. And then I was still, like I said, in the process of going through changes. So it was just like a lot. And then for me, I'm the type of person, I don't like to have to be the person to like, I don't want to say cut someone off, but to put boundaries. But sometimes it is good for you too to have those boundaries, because like literally it takes the load off of you, you know, like you can feel the weight being lifted off of you. Because I could have easily been the type of person to just block or just ignore or something like that, but I've really been trying to do better with communication, practicing using my throat chakra and, you know, expressing myself, and maybe not having to explain yourself, but at least using human decency, and, you know, considering someone else's feelings and explaining, you know, just where you are and why certain things have to be the way they are, and giving that person the chance to digest that. And if they have questions, they can ask, you know, but also learning to stand firm in what your decision is. If you're deciding to no longer interact with people because they are draining or whatever, or certain situations are draining you, then, you know, being okay with standing on that and owning that, and being, I don't know if I would say obedient, but just, if you're going to make a decision, like, respect it for yourself and stand on it, and remaining faithful to it. And even because sometimes it's hard, like when you do have to do that, like if you have to cut someone off or end a relationship or end a friendship or a connection or a job, whatever, sometimes because you got in such a routine of interacting with that person. And, you know, I heard this other podcast, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and they were saying like how, you know, like a breakup, that's why a breakup is so hard, because, you know, that connection was feeding like the dopamine, which makes you feel good. And when you think of that person, or you think of that connection or whatever that might be that you have to let go of, like it makes you feel good, and we all want to feel good. So, you know, trying to now change that to something, maybe not making it negative, but it becomes a negative experience. So it's harder to let go of sometimes. And just learning how to let go, let things be, and knowing that like when you are in this stage of like having to transform and change, that usually whatever you have to get rid of, it's because there's not enough space for that, because you've outgrown that. You've learned the lessons from it, but also that means that something else is coming to replace it. Like remembering in times like that, when you are going through transformation, you feel like, because I was feeling like that, like, tag, like, why do I have to, like I said, I didn't want to have to necessarily end these things, but it wasn't serving me anymore. And when you have to let go of things that are no longer serving you, you have to remember that usually it's because you're about to get something else that's going to serve you in the next stage of your life. So it's always, you know, God will never like take things away as punishment and then leave you with nothing. It's usually because God is making way for like bigger things, or like something that's going to serve you better in your next stage, or in your next, you know, thing that you're changing for in your transformation. So it's just, again, like practicing faith not only in God but in yourself, that, you know, you've come this far and you've learned a lot of lessons along the way, and things always tend to work out. So just remembering that in times like this, and just moving forward in faith and taking your time, knowing that things take time. Usually nothing happens overnight. When you are praying on something, believe in it. When you know, speaking on things of yourself, believing it, not just like when you're manifest, but also believe when you're manifesting. And, you know, learning how to practice certain things to help you remain calm and less anxious and worried about things, whether it be meditation, practicing positive affirmations, journaling, anything, go to church or something, listening to, positive messages or positive podcasts, or talking to friends or family or whoever, just expressing yourself and making sure you don't bottle things up. So, overall, I would just say that, like I said, this episode is called Checking Out, and just wanted to check in with listeners, but also just reminding people that, sometimes life happens and you do have to check out of certain things to kind of regroup and recharge yourself and come back as your best self. But it's also okay to not always be your best self, and if you want to try to still apply yourself to certain things, and do that, but just be gentle with yourself. I would say that, like, learning to be gentle with yourself, but also learning to be gentle with other people. That's another lesson that I'm learning now, is learning to be gentle with other people, whether that be friends or family or connections or anything like that, because everybody's going through something, and sometimes people haven't experienced certain things that you have, or they might not, interpret certain experiences the same way you do, and emotionally they might not be where you are. So making that conscious decision to be a teacher, rather than, just feeling like, okay, well, this person's not on my level, so forget it. Sometimes even I can admit that I used to do that too. Like, if I felt like someone emotionally wasn't on my level, then I'm just like, all right, forget it. Then that person's not who I want to interact with, as opposed to like being someone who can teach, and be patient. As long as someone's willing to learn, that's another key. Is like, you have to learn how to use discernment of, like, whether you're wasting your time trying to teach someone something that is just like beating a dead horse, or is it someone who is not used to someone teaching them, and it might require a little bit more patience, but if you see progress, then you could continue. So just again checking in, and making sure that when we as people check out, what does that look like for you? Can it look different for you than what it looks like for me? And being aware of people's emotions, and paying attention to patterns and interactions, and when someone is checking out, how long do you give them to do so? Making sure that they're still being okay emotionally, and taking care of themselves. And also when you do check out like that, like checking in with yourself as like, all right, like for me, when I was checking out, like I was aware that I was checking out. It was just, I knew that I needed to do it and to regroup, and I was checking in with myself and saying, okay, you can go back to it now, kind of thing. But you have to just follow your intuition and listen to your gut, because even though mentally I was telling myself, all right, you should record, you're off work right now, but I just couldn't, intuitively it was just like, no, it's not time. And certain things were happening that were influencing me to want to do an episode, but I still, again, it was just like I just couldn't do it. Like, it was just that desire wasn't there, or it was just like timing, or things started happening to kind of prevent me from doing so. And I feel like this is the right time to do so, because I'm sure someone needed to maybe hear this, because it's funny, I actually had another message, I'm kind of into tarot and following that, and I'm a Virgo, and I the other day, it was Tuesday morning, I saw this. It said, Virgo, someone could use your advice today. If you're unsure whether or not to address something, you probably should, but speak from a place of love and harmony versus talking down. And that's what I was saying, what I was just talking about, learning how to be patient with people and knowing that just because you know something, or you've learned a lesson before, or you might handle things a certain way, or you're emotionally more mature than someone, not taking that to like shame them, but to teach them if they're willing to learn, and if someone's willing to learn and, you're being patient with them, then usually that's going to allow them to grow more and open up to you more. And then usually sometimes that can create the emotional maturity that you're looking for in someone, or the connection that you're looking for, or whatever you're needing from them to reciprocate. They might not know how to do it in the beginning, but they're learning from you. So learning how to talk to someone, from a place of love and harmony versus talking down. If someone's already down, they don't need to be talked down to. It doesn't help, and coming from a place of love and harmony can change their outlook on the situation, and the way that they interact with you, the way they interact with others, and can teach them a lesson of how to pay it forward, basically. And that's another message that I kind of been getting too, is about paying it forward. And like sometimes another video that I saw, like this guy was saying how, when it comes to your calling, it's not always about you. And knowing that sometimes your calling, like in a situation like this, like a podcast, yes, I do it for myself, but I also have to realize that it's a part of doing something where someone might hear this episode and regroup, or no longer feel bad for checking out. It's just like certain things you have to do. Sometimes your calling, or things that you need to do that you might not want to do, but you have to, because God is using you for someone else. Really, that's what he was saying. The video that I'm talking about that I saw, and he was saying that, like, he was kind of saying the same thing, like he was checking out or feeling like sometimes like, oh, I don't feel like doing this today, or I don't feel like, recording, I don't feel like writing today or something. But you don't know that you recording something, you could have just helped someone get through another day, or feel like, okay, I can do this, or I feel better about themselves or a situation that they're in. So you have to remember that sometimes when we don't feel like doing it, God is pushing us to do it for a reason. Things are happening for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. So just doing it without being in a selfish mindset of like, I don't feel like doing this because I'm tired, but more so I don't feel, doing it because that you remember that somebody else might benefit from this. You might help someone else, whether it be the same day that you're doing it or weeks from now, whatever, putting it out there or just doing what you're called to do it's for the greater good of somebody, whether it be you yourself, one other person, a bunch of other people, you don't know. So there's a reason why you're being called to do it, and there is a reason why you began it in the first place. So again, allowing yourself to check out and regroup, but then also remembering not to stay out for too long, and to come back to what you're doing, because you started it for a reason. You were doing it for a reason. At one point, it was making you happy. So, checking back in to get back to that space. And remembering to be patient with yourself, be patient with others, be coming from a place of love and harmony, and learning to take things for what they are, and accepting things. Again, don't look to be attached, just look to like learn and experience, rather than attach yourself to people and things, because things change, people change, and we have to remember to just try to learn as many lessons as we can through certain interactions and conversations or interactions that you have in life, and try to embrace as much as you can and get as much information as you can. And when you're in that stage of like where I am right now, like in the process of transformation, to just be gentle with yourself, be gentle with others, be gentle with the process, and know that everything is coming together the way it's supposed to, and you're gonna appreciate the end result, So yeah, that's all I had to really say. I hope that this episode resonated with someone. And as usual, I'm your host, Chanel, and this is Black Hippie Lounge. And don't forget to meditate, manifest, invest in you, and have a good night.